I'd ask that while you're in court, you not be driving your car. I can tell from...
Oh, you know what? I didn't think I was going to have court today.
I didn't either.
And so I'm not being, you're not, hey, my time is not being compensated. If you'd like me to send a bill to your office, I'd be more than happy to pull over.
But on the record,
this is what I'm saying.
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to state on the record that you have filed an interpleader in this action. I find that Ms. Weinman gave you proper notice of today's hearing, and I further find that it is a danger to the public health and safety for you to be driving a car while we're having court proceedings. So I'm respectfully asking...
I'm driving hands-free.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G.
Snoop Dogg.
You know I'm mobbing with the D.R.E.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pissed Off Parent Show, and with me tonight is Eddie Spaghetti. Ed Brown is not in the house. It's Eddie Spaghetti.
Going back to fourth grade here. Hey, good.
You know what? That's about 2 grades higher than where we're at with this show.
Okay. So it's not going to go much higher than grade school conversations today.
It will not go much higher than that. No, definitely not. So I wanted to welcome everybody in. Again, we got special guest Eddie Spaghetti. And I'm sorry, I don't know if we name our sources, but wants to talk about a article that was in the Fort Worth Weekly titled Black Robe Sorcerers. Let me pull that up here so we have that to work with. And I will just kind of sit back and let's see, there we go. And kind of like let you take it from there. I mean, it was an editorial article from December 2022. And you're talking about a gentleman here that has a wizard hat on. And talking about some of the... And who's this gentleman here?
Texas Supreme Court Justice Nathan Hecht.
Ah, okay. All right. He's got a wizarding hat on there. It's not a sorting hat, but more of a wizardy type hat. And the article kind of goes into some talk. I see, in bold there, double dipping, alakazam, and all kinds of non-Muggle talk for the Harry Potter fans out there. So I don't know if we can talk about who wrote the article, or you know what? I'll just kind of turn it over to you. You seem to, you have a lot of good information. So I will just kind of let you run with it.
Yeah, so our editorials are accredited to the editorial board, which is pretty small. It's actually just my editor and myself right now. It's been bigger in the past. So I don't mind saying that I worked on this article. We were having kind of fun with that because we were finding things with judges that were so ridiculous. We figured it must be magic. These must be magical judges. They don't have to have oaths on file. They don't have to finish certain statutory paperwork. They can break all these rules. They derive their authority, as we'll talk about tonight, out of magic. And so it's just kind of a fitting satirical article. And actually, I wanted to just say, because I've talked about judges and retired judges quite often. I've never talked about this topic on a show. So other than the article, this is the first time I've had a chance. I will have a chance to talk about this. So it's kind of breaking for the YouTube live Facebook kind of world. We're going to be talking about visiting retired judges, and specifically a subset who are misdemeanor judges. I'm going to take my time today because I really want to explain why it's so absurd what the Texas Supreme Court is allowing to happen. And so visiting retired judges, these are retired judges, as the name entails, and they've decided to go back to work to make extra money. They often oversee family court cases, so it's very relevant to your show's topics. People might have these judges show up, and what we're going to talk about today are judges who are never appointed or elected. And so I wanted to start by, I got this book here I ordered this. It's called Black's Law Dictionary. It's really heavy. But it's an important reference point as we kind of build foundational knowledge before we make these allegations, so to speak. So I want to read, what is a judge? This is, from Black's, Law Dictionary. This is the definitive source for information on legal matters, right? A judge is a public official appointed or elected to hear and decide legal matters in courts. A judicial officer who has the authority to administer justice. The term is sometimes held to include all officers appointed to decide litigated questions, including a justice of the peace and even jurors who are judges of the fact. But in ordinary legal usage, the term is limited to the sense of an officer who is so named in his or her commission and presides in a court. So there are two things to note here. One is this opening line that it is a public official who are either appointed or elected. There's no third option. It has to be one of those two. Also, this word judicial officer is going to be important for what we talk about today, because as we'll see, retired misdemeanor judges are not judicial officers under state law. So there are two fundamental concerns that we have with these types of judges, in that they have derived their authority out of thin air, and because they're not appointed or elected, and they are also not a judicial officer, because to become a judicial officer under state government code, you have to fulfill something called Chapter 75. And so there are two chapters. There's Chapter 74 and Chapter 75. When you retire, if you want to go back to work, you have to fulfill, I would say, both chapters, but the Supreme Court is maintaining as of last year that only district judges need to fulfill both chapters. And for clarity, I'm going to refer alternatingly between misdemeanor and felony judges, but the alternate terms are county and district, right? So that's what we're really talking about. When we talk about a county criminal judge, we're talking about someone who oversees misdemeanors. They do not oversee felonies, except maybe in, I believe that definition stands in all cases. And district level judges oversee felonies. All right. Okay. So I retire. It's important to understand that once you retire as a judge, it should kind of go without saying, you're no longer a judge, right? Once your elected office ends or your appointed term ends, you cannot just walk back into a courtroom and preside over cases. Fair enough? I mean, that's sounds about right. Backed up by appeal court rulings, but it's also just common sense. So there's a step you have to do. And if you want to go back to work to fill in, whenever judges need you to fill in, that's basically the job that retired judges do. They fill in for judges who are otherwise occupied. You must fulfill Chapter 74. Now, that gets you on a list, right? Chapter 74, all that stuff you see is basically you telling the administrative judge, and our administrative judge of the 8th Judicial Region, which covers Tarrant County and much of North Texas, is David Evans. You notify David Evans that you wish to come back to work. Okay. And I'll read you, interrupt me if you ever have any questions, Dwayne. I'm going to read you, I have a lot of paperwork here that I've compiled over the last year. I'm going to read you what actually these judges sent to David Evans. So here's an example. This is Judge Wallace on December 12, 2019. Judge Wallace sent this to David Evans, and it reads, regarding retirement of Judge R.H. Wallace Jr., please be advised that I will retire as judge of the 96th District Court of Tarrant County effective December 31st, 2019. I am a retiree of the Judicial Retirement System of Texas as defined in Section 831.001 or Section 836.001, and have notified the Supreme Justice, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, of my election to continue to serve as a judicial officer of the state of Texas. So this is a judge who's retiring. He actually, interestingly enough, he has not done this correctly. A lot of these judges, here's what's kind of funny when we start learning about judges. Once you start looking at the paperwork, they botch it all the time. Like they make up these rules. So he has with this case, he's not supposed to he's supposed to notify them, I believe, after he retires, not while he's still active. They get that timeline wrong. You notify them within 90 days after retirement. He's done. He's still active. So not early, which is actually a violation of the law. But anyway, I think I finished reading this. I wish to sit as a visiting judge on assignment by you or by the Chief Justice pursuant to Section 75 and 74 of Texas Government Code, enclosed as a properly executed application to serve on judicial assignment. So this retiring district judge is notifying our local judge, hey, heads up, I'm about to retire, but I'm fulfilling Chapter 74 and 75. I want to be eligible to be on this list of judges.
Right.
And when he says that I have notified the Chief Justice of my election, basically he's getting appointed by the Chief Justice. I shouldn't say basically. He is getting appointed by the Chief Justice. That's the That's the thing.
Appointing
Judges, they can't derive their power from nothing, right?
Right.
So this is an example of one that, even though he filed the paperwork at the wrong time, it's consistent with what we would call a judge, because not all of them are these misdemeanor judges. And then I want to read what he sends to Chief Justice Nathan Hecht, because he does both. Okay. So he says, Honorable Nathan Hecht, please be advised that I will retire as judge of the 96th District Court of Tarrant County effective December 31st, 2019. I hereby elect to continue to serve as a judicial officer of the state of Texas under provisions of Chapter 75. Now, Chapter 75, we haven't talked about that yet, so let's revisit that. Chapter 74 gets you on the list. It does not make you a judge, and they're actually trying to say that it qualifies you for being a judge, which is not true. Chapter 74 gets you on the list. I hope I said that right. Chapter 75 is the extra step that you have to take to notify the Chief Justice that you want to be appointed. That's what makes you a judicial officer. It also makes you what is called a senior judge. So whenever you see someone say they're a senior judge, they're not just a retired judge. They're a judge who has elected under Chapter 74 and 75. He's done the two steps. I'm on the list, and I've gotten my appointment from the Chief Justice. Okay. All right. So Nathan Hecht writes back to this judge and says, Dear Judge Wallace, this is on January 2nd. So Nathan Hecht actually knew to wait until he retired to write back. So, he's messed up a lot of stuff, but he got this right. Thank you for your letter advising that you have retired effective December 31st, 2019, and that pursuant to Texas Government Code 75, you elect to be a judicial officer subject to assignments. My cat's about to jump up here. You have given the people of Texas many years of distinguished service, and they are the beneficiaries of your willingness to continue sitting by assignment. Signed, Chief Justice Nathan Hecht. So that's an example of kind of what makes sense, right? And there's a whole different issue of whether they're constitutionally qualified to preside, because these judges don't file their oath of office after they retire, but that's a separurt issue. It's a big issue, but it's a whole different episode.
Yeah, you've talked about that, I think, actually on Larry's show and some other there's Current, your cat. I think talking about on Larry's show or no.
I did. I think that's the first thing I talked about when I went last fall, first episode. Yeah. And it's an interesting topic, but I thought this one would be interesting to talk about today because, again, there's a whole class of judges, these non-senior judges, who are not asking to be appointed, and they're being assigned to cases. So let's look at this. If you have that list of senior and misdemeanor judges.
Yeah, let's.
So in your heads, I want to always clarify, we got misdemeanor judges and we have district judges. We have misdemeanor judges and we have senior judges. This is Chapter 74. This is 74 plus 75. And if you go through here, what do you notice? Most of them are senior judges, right? But there's several. You see the ones that are not senior? I think they just
David Garcia just says retired. Cheryl Hardy says retired.
Correct.
And William Harris is a senior. So that looks like that's that separation there. So
So there are retired judges who are non-senior who
Mhm.
are assigned to cases. Now I want to talk about there's a lot of inconsistencies, and this is kind of the it's kind of like a huge puzzle trying to figure out how did this mess happen. And I haven't figured out everything, but I have some interesting clues. And one thing I realized, because I have all these, like a lot of these judges, I have their applications, to be senior judges, right? So I've got all this stuff. The misdemeanor judges have all elected to be senior judges. They've all sent letters to Nathan Hecht, but they're not listed as senior judges. And so I shouldn't say they all did. I know one, Daryl Coffey, who never sent any letter to Nathan Hecht, and he was listed as a senior judge. But right now, the Supreme Court is maintaining so let me back up. Last year, the Office of Court Administration for the state issued a memorandum in June, and it was sent to all the administrative regions in Texas. And I believe this memorandum was sent in response to the botched paperwork of David Evans here in Tarrant County that was exposed by yours truly. And it created such a mess that they had to send out a memorandum that basically was informing people how to avoid the mistakes David Evans had made. And in the memorandum,
having a rule named after you. I mean, you don't want to be that guy.
We should call it the "Don't do what David Evans did." What
Right,
David Evans did specifically, the most egregious thing he did is he assigned a misdemeanor judge as a senior judge, knowing that this judge had never elected to be a judicial officer. And I confirmed that because I reached out to Nathan Hecht's office, and I asked for the letter that Nathan Hecht received from Daryl Coffey seeking to be a judicial officer under Chapter 75. He had never sent one.
Right.
He had falsely told David Evans that he had sent one. He specifically told David Evans that I have contacted Nathan Hecht. So he lied. And so he had no statutory authority for several years, and he presided over 100 criminal cases. So one of my theories is that it was in an effort to cover up for David Evans, for Daryl Coffey and other misdemeanor judges who had failed to do the correct process. I believe that the Supreme Court is trying to find a way out of this problem. And rather than having trials for all of these botched cases, they're saying that, well, misdemeanor judges do not need to elect to be judicial officers under Chapter 75. That's not true for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons I know that historically the misdemeanor judges have had to notify Nathan Hecht. I know that because the misdemeanor judges, and I'll give you an example, historically have done both chapters. Let me try to find.
If I'm not mistaken or misunderstanding this, in Section 75 here, is the first thing on the list. Not later than 9 days after the date of the person's retirement, in a document addressed to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, says, or after the 90th day after the day of the person's retirement, in a petition addressed to the Supreme Court. So that's how you start that process. It's like the first step. That's what they should be doing, and it sounds like that's not done. Or did I miss?
Isn't it interesting? It is not being done for the non-senior judges across the state. They're not having to fulfill this step.
The first step. I guess I'm kind of emphasizing that. It's the first step. We gave them a pass. It was like if they read through, like there was this little thing way at the bottom of this document that says you got to stand on your head or something. It's the first thing. If I'm understanding it right.
You are understanding it right.
Okay.
I'm going to read you an AG opinion. It's from like the 1990s, and it's marked H-526. This is the Attorney General, John Hill at the time, saying, "It is therefore apparent that a judge who retires and does not accept an appointment to sit in a court of this state is not therefore a judicial officer and has no further duties as a judge." So again, very clear. I mean, and again, we always go back to that fundamental building block, and it's important people understand this. Judges Any judge is either appointed or elected. And backing up, even further, judges are held to a very high. They should be held to a very high standard. I say that they're not in practice, but when it comes to Supreme Court rulings, if it actually gets to that level, they actually are, because they're the only public official who has the authority to unilaterally deprive someone of liberty or property. So a city council collectively can deprive you of that commissioner's court can, but there's only one job in this state where one person can send someone to jail or take away their house. That's a judge. So it's a very powerful position. And that's why it's an interesting example, because I've read a lot of appeal court rulings. If a sheriff takes office January 1st, and then goes out and arrests someone on January 2nd, and then takes their oath of office January 3rd, the courts will actually allow that to happen because it's a lower standard. They'll say that, anyway, by contrast, if a judge takes office on January 1st, makes a ruling on January 2nd, an active judge, and takes the oath of office on January 3rd, the January 2nd rulings will be overturned because they're supposed to be held to a higher standard. So here's an example. I'm going to give you an example of a judge reaching out to Chief Justice Jefferson. This was before Nathan Hecht's time, 2010. Please be advised that I will retire as judge of Tarrant County Court at Law number 3. So that's a misdemeanor court. Okay. It's not a district judge. I hereby elect to serve as a judicial officer of the state of Texas under provisions of Chapter 75. And he is given the return letter. He is given senior judge status under Chapter 75. So what does that prove? That at one point, not that long ago, these misdemeanor judges were required to notify Nathan Hecht, to notify David Evans that they notified Nathan Hecht, and to have a letter from Nathan Hecht appointing them as a judicial officer. And this is not the only example I have. I have several examples of misdemeanor judges notifying Nathan. I know I'm saying this a lot, but it's important to understand historically they have. And now the Supreme Court is saying that they do not have to. So they're changing the rules midstream. And again, what I'm trying to figure out right now is what happened. And my best theory is that there was so much botched paperwork for these assignments that they just could not deal with it. And they just said, screw it. Misdemeanor judges don't have to do this anymore. It's interesting. You read Chapter 75. It says very clearly that they notify them 90 days after retirement, right?
Right. After the 90th day. Yeah.
So when are these judges writing their letters? All of them are writing their letters while they're still active because they're in a hurry, right? It's their last month in office. They want to make sure they have a job. So they're not following the law. The Office of Court Administration, in their memorandum that they released, actually added conflicting information on that specific part. On the Office of Court Administration memo, they said that you can notify the Chief Justice before or after. And I asked them why they would offer a directive that conflicts with the statute. They did not respond, but the reason is so many judges have not followed their own directions that they just issued a memo saying it's okay.
Well, I'm looking at this. Again, it's once you get. You have to kind of get your brain into legal mode. And I'm looking at that first section, not later than the 90th day after the date of the person's retirement. After. Okay, so I was like, all right, let's really dig into that. But no, that still supports you must be retired, and it's got to be within 9 days post-retirement. And then if it's after the 90th day, there's that. And then the other part that actually Steve Bresnan gave a nice little lesson a couple days ago on the word shall. Shall is not a left open to interpretation. Shall is this is what you do. So they should be designated a senior judge. If I'm getting that. So Interesting that they're doing that. And what does that mean to all these cases that they've presided over and made decisions on when they don't? I mean, if you look at the way the law reads, it doesn't appear they have that. They don't have that position. It's like you or I walking in, lack of a better way of saying it.
They're basically, I mean, legally, I should say, I mean, professionally they're qualified, but legally they have the same qualifications as you or I going into, because we're also not judges. They're equally not, these misdemeanor retired judges are equally not judges because they've never been appointed. And okay, so I wanted to also mention, why is it important that the statute says 90 days after? You cannot hold two government positions of profit at the same time.
I got to disagree with you there. You can be a judge and you can be a party planner based on our last discussion.
Oh gosh, I was scared you actually had.
You thought I was going to go somewhere with that, didn't you?
You actually had a serious rebuttal, and I was going to lose my point. I still got it though.
You have to expect that from me. This is what I do.
No, the party. Okay, so I hope folks remember that Judge Newell renting out his courtroom. But no. So if you're a judge, I mean, if you're back to if you're a judge, you cannot also be a mayor. If you're a mayor, you cannot also be a state rep. There are multiple laws against that. So the reason that they say that is actually very important. And here's a funny story. There's a judge last name Sprinkle, Vincent Sprinkle. And I have his paperwork. It's in my office. I didn't bring it out here. Mm-hmm. He actually held two positions of profit at once. Why? Because when he was retiring, he sent the letter too early. And guess what? It might have been Nathan Hecht. One of the Supreme Court justices actually assigned him as a senior judge while he was still active. And so that's the danger. That's the danger when you have lazy judges who aren't on both ends, who aren't giving a crap about the laws. You had a judge who for like 3 weeks in December literally had two positions of profit that were both judges. Like he might as well have been an appellate judge and a justice of the peace at the same time. I mean, so they're not following the rules.
Sounds like Newell was saying, "Hold my beer" when he was getting the the little party going there, the little meeting. I had to keep harping on that one. It's just funny. When he did that. But yeah, I mean, from what at least my understanding is that a judge can't moonlight as something else. Actually, in divorce court, when they talk about the movie, how judges work back and forth, and it's they would say, I mean, one day they could be a judge, the next day they could be an attorney, but not at the same time. That would be like some Three Stooges skit where they're going back and forth. They should only be able to hold one title, I guess, per day or at a time. So that's interesting. And actually, I did a little digging, and I found some other interesting info that I wanted to kind of throw at you and see if it whets the appetite or makes you think something else. Because I have to dig in, and I always try to follow the money. But we can jump into that here in a second.
Sure.
But,
yeah. Because I've kind of covered that. We can kind of start seeing where you want to go, because that's basically my thesis right there. Is over.
I was going to ask kind of like what next steps are in this. I mean, it looks like you've done a lot of research. You had to buy a law book, for God's sake. That should be a punishment. But kind of like what's next for this? I mean, or can you reveal that on open air? Research in there.
It's I mean, again, I'm still trying to figure out what happened, because there was a point, could have been recently, where they decided to totally abandon the requirement. So that's where it gets kind of hard to figure out, like, what exactly happened. There's a lot of interesting things. I'm particularly interested in, as you can tell, retired judges, because they're given free reign to do so many things. And just to give you a quick example, Article 16 of the state constitution says, paraphrasing, that any public, once you read it, look it up, actually, it'd be interesting.
Article 16 of the Constitution.
It's about the oath of office. Shall take the oath of office before entering on the duties. Any public official.
Let's see here. Let me open that.
It's okay.
I try to be prepared as much as possible. So Article 16. Oh, official oath of office. This part right here.
Yes, it's like
All right.
one sentence that it leads off. Does it say something about shall take the oath of office before entering upon the duties at the top?
Oh, official oath of office. All elected and appointed officers before they enter important clarification, before they enter upon the duties of their offices shall take the following oath or affirmation. And then I do solemnly swear, so on and so forth. All elected or appointed officers before taking the oath of affirmation of office prescribed by the section and entering upon the duties of office shall subscribe to the following statement. And then they do their
Okay.
thing.
So does it say anywhere on there except retired judges?
Let's see if I can open it up for older eyes here.
Does it-
Let's see.
Is there an asterisk?
Yeah, I'm looking for an oath or a keyword here. So retire. Nope, the word retire does not show up. So
they don't get a free pass on taking their oath of office. Well, and again, that's another problem with retired judges. They do not file their oath of office ever. And there have been Court of Criminal Appeal rulings in the past, big ones that have ruled that judges who do not have an oath on file, even retired judges, their cases can be overturned. But these judges have all somehow they've all worked together to disregard the Constitution, and again, that's it's upsetting, but it's also it's interesting because they wouldn't do it unless at some point there was some kind of agreement that they would all engage in this kind of behavior, because it is absurd. I'll tell you a funny story. Last year I wrote a whole lot of articles on retired judges not taking not oath of office, and when last September when I had my harassment trial that I was found not guilty of, the judge in that case, retired judge.
Sorry.
Thank you. I earned it.
There we go. Sorry, I need my soundboard.
Well, it's this guy, by the way, James Wilson. He was the retired judge who was appointed. So first of all, that was kind of like an FU to me, because I'm the guy who hates retired judges, or I should say I don't hate them, but I investigate them. And what do they do? They assign a retired judge. He actually kind of filed an oath of office for my trial. And it almost never happens, but it was invariably because he knew I'd be asking to see it. So they can do it. It's possible to scare them into doing the right thing, is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, it can be done. It can be. Actually, Joe had a question, probably the same one I would, kind of have is, who's supposed to be monitoring these activities, and who's gonna, and I don't know if we can get into that part of it. But what can we do as citizens to hold our judiciary accountable? Of course, that's a repeatable question that I ask all the time. Another favorite line of work.
Once, if you ever have the misfortune of having a retired judge oversee your case, and they do oversee a lot of cases, it's not rare. You can ask. You'll freak your attorney out, but you can ask if they have filed their oath of office, and if they have not, you can ask them to recuse themselves because they're not constitutionally qualified to preside over your case if they do not file their oath of office. I mean, if everybody did that, that would begin to change the system, right? But the problem is, and this is just a reoccurring problem with our discussions on courts, attorneys are afraid to ask that question, right?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they
don't want to raise that issue.
Right. I mean, what we know about, especially, Tarrant County and the attorneys and judges and all the inappropriate things that appear to go on there. Having an attorney commit probably their
suicide
career. Suicide. Yeah. I mean, to go against any of these judges, because that's just kind of what they operate. Well, I did a little bit of research on my own, and let me see if I can pull this up here. Of course, my brain's got 23 tabs open, And I went ahead and, kind of dug in, and I would actually invite anyone, if you want to, dig into this. There's actually a lot of good information out there, information I've been searching for in other areas for a long time. Because there are a number of questions I've had about cases and who's in them and judges, and I've always been stonewall. Well, there's a way to get it, and I'll more information on that later. But this document here, which is available on the TJB, that main website, I think I linked to it, talks about the judicial turnover or the judicial turnover report, and that was kind of the meat of what I wanted to get to. But up here, it just talks about, they just did a little report here. Let me get to they talk about the rate is I believe it's pretty low. Yeah, turnover rate is 8%. And it was basically because either they resigned or they didn't seek reelection, providing that information there. And I also wanted to kind of point out also how much judges make. There's other documents that have it, but this has it here. But at that district judge level, they start out at $140,000 a year, which is a pretty nice little little bit of scratch there, a little bit of cheese.
Starting out,
Yeah, not bad. I mean, I wouldn't think that like Newell would have to have a second job or something, doing parties and all that. But I guess you can't make it ends meet on the.
You got to live within your means, though, right? I mean,
you would think that's what they would do, but yeah. And then they said the average salary there is the 171. So again, the 140 is you just kind of squeak in. There's other.
Yeah, I think it gets up to 190 or so. So
yeah, it says here maximum county supplement is so you're up to 18, and then maximum salary is 186 at the district level, at the appellate level 193, and then 200 for the Supreme Court. So your buddy there is getting at least 200 smackers a year. So it goes through quite a bit of information. I found interesting. It breaks out why they left and what they decided to do. But actually, they had resignations, which I don't know. Is it the pejorative resignation, or is it the I'm done and I'm out of here? And I'm thinking it's the I'm done, I'm out of here, because that thing that I popped. Well, this actually it opened up some of the other questions, because I saw the involuntary turnover rate. When I think of involuntary, I think come into my office and bring everything with you. That's when I hear that. I obviously need to research that data a little bit more. But the one that I found interesting, actually they even asked what influenced their decisions. But in light of our conversation tonight, let's see, we can get back to, wasn't that one? This was the plans of a retired judge working as a visiting judge at 61% of their plans. That just seems interesting to me, based on some of the comments you had made and some of the research you've done, that it's almost like a career path.
I had this figure at one point. I believe they make around $750 a day.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's not bad money, and you're making that on top of often on top of retirement. Actually, I would say you are, because you have to be in the retirement system to even ask to be. I'm noticing that too. So they're in the county or the state retirement system. This is another interesting angle, why they're not filing their oath of office. I have read language in the original in two areas. The original statute that predated Chapter 74 and Chapter 75. It was in the Vernon statutes, and I forget what number it was. Mm-hmm. But in the original language, it says you will take assignment in lieu of retirement. So what that means is, the original intent of this system was, when you go back to work as a judge, you notify the retirement system and you pause your retirement, which would make sense, right? Otherwise, you're double dipping.
It's what everybody else has to do.
Yeah, everyone else has to. If you, but by not filing your oath of office, you can basically hide the fact that you're going back to work. There's language in the retirement code that talks specifically about. It basically says that filing the oath is what triggers, notifies the retirement system that you've gone back to work. So. Right. The way it used to be, maybe a couple decades ago, is when you filed your oath of office, that would automatically notify I believe it would automatically notify the retirement system that, hey, I'm going back to work. I'm going to be on trial from Monday through Friday. Proportionately pause my retirement. And I'm pretty, at this point, I'm pretty sure that these judges figured out that they could circumvent that pausing of the retirement system by not filing their oath of office. So they did it for like a really despicable reason.
So wait, you're saying that they're doing that knowingly and getting around the system? Sorry. I spent a long time building this soundboard. I am going to use it.
Have fun. It's your
I'm
show,
sorry.
man. It's your show. Again, so that's that's as far as I've kind of gotten with kind of my theories there. So
I'm a big follow the money guy. My background, I'm always trying to, I try to dissect things and look at it from a million different angles. And this to me, just like a, interest, just, again, it's not like a silver bullet or this is it, but it was just interesting that when they said, I'm going to retire, they said, I'm going to work as a visiting judge. So there's something that, compelled them to say, I want to do that. And again, they're going to give up the 100 and whatever amount and then work as a visiting judge, making the $750 a day, not having to really report to have their retirement stopped, because it looks like the way this works. So that just I found that interesting that they did that. There's a lot of
you want to go deeper?
Yeah, let's put on our tinfoil hats and let's go crazy.
Oh, okay. There's two parts to the oath of office.
Okay.
One is an anti-bribery statement,
Dude,
and
sorry.
one is the oath of office. It's also called. Sorry.
I coughed. I'm sorry. That I was not.
Oh,
I was
I know.
not coughing at what you just said. It was merely I'm older. I coughed a little bit. I apologize. The anti-bribery thing. There's
an anti-bribery thing, and then there's the oath of office. You have to take both. So basically, it's a two-part oath of office in Texas. There was a gentleman who has he's way ahead of me on investigating all this stuff, and he mentioned that it's interesting that they don't take the anti-bribery statement because that allows them to be bribed. And if you really look at the way retired judges are used, and I know a lot of them, I follow a lot of their cases. They're very shady cases, and if it can be argued that that the payments that they get, the double dip, are forms of bribery because they know they're not supposed to be taking both amounts of money, and they know that they should be filing their oath of office. But by not filing their anti-bribery statements, they're avoiding culpability to be bribed. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they actually have to sign an anti-bribery oath document, whatever, this to me, and again, I'm old. I don't know what I'm doing, but that just to me seems like common sense. Like I like in my dealings with anyone, I would never, I would just laugh if they handed me an anti-bribery document I had to sign. That means that profession is so corrupt, and they make you sign it, and then they go, "Oh, we're not doing that. Kryptonite, not touching it."
Yeah, they added that in 2000, or it was 99 or 2001, and it was probably in response to a lot of judges taking bribes that they made it a separate thing that you have to actually file that before you file your oath of office. It has to be done in that order. And what it does is, I guess they're trying to keep judges from taking assignments that they know are a form of bribery. They wouldn't have judges sign anti-bribery statements if there was never an issue with judges being bribed, right? Like that's not
why campaign contributions.
Yeah. Well, now it is campaign contributions. Yeah. I mean, that's a form of bribery. The way they're used, unfortunately. So the oath of office. I had another thought, but it'll have to come back to me.
Okay. I don't know. It's just our judiciary. It is. I'm continually shocked at just the things I learn. Is it's that layer of a dirty, ugly onion that every time you peel back a layer, you're like, well, because again, I grew up on Matlock. I grew up on, well, a little bit older, but Judge Judy. Again, it was the court TV, but you had this. You were taught that judges were honorable, and that's why they're at that level, because they are, not to quote the Bible, but they're above reproach. They are held apart and above, and they're supposed to be very honorable. And it just sounds like, I mean, when you look at these things, they're everything but honorable.
Let me tell you two stories. Let me tell you two stories about Nathan Hecht. So
All right.
This is our Supreme Court justice in Texas, right?
Okay.
The top of the top, Chief Justice, I should say. I'm sorry, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. We published this story about a administrative judge that Nathan Hecht assigned. Nathan Hecht assigned this administrative judge to several criminal cases down in South Texas.
Okay.
And I need to look up the article to remember the names, but Nathan Hecht does not have the authority to do that. So administrative judges are kind of like the second ranking, they're on top of each of the regions, and there are 13 regions in Texas.
Right.
So you don't get to assign those people to sit on benches, right? And I say that not just like commonsensically, but if you read Nathan Hecht's authority and you read chapter 74 and 75, he can appoint retired judges. He has certain, he can do certain things, but he cannot appoint an administrative judge outside of its county. And these cases, and once I looked into the actual cases that were involved, they all involved Republican officials who were acquitted or somehow exonerated by this judge. And it could be argued that Nathan Hecht was trying to help his buddies out by assigning a judge who's not allowed to these cases that ultimately favor powerful. I'm not trying to be partisan, but they just, because they could have been Democrat or Republican, but they just for clarity, they were Republicans. But more importantly, he was helping his buddies out, it appears. And right now there's a I don't know if he's an administrative judge. There's a retired judge being assigned to criminal cases by Nathan Hecht. His last name's Peoples, and we haven't written about this yet, but he is a civil family law judge. Okay. And you'll notice on the list of retired judges, they say what their qualifications are, right? So you don't send a civil judge to, he's being assigned to criminal cases by Nathan Hecht. He's not a criminal court judge. He's never sat in a criminal court judge case.
I mean, that'd be like a podiatrist going into a heart surgeon room trying to figure it out. I mean, he's got, he walked past the specific class a few times, but he's not qualified. So I analogize a lot of things, and I have a weird.
Like criminal, family law, and civil are so unrelated.
Yeah.
I don't think the judge begins to. I mean, family law, statutes. That's a court of equity. That has nothing to do with the court of law.
Yeah.
It qualifies you in no way, shape, or form to bounce around from these things if you've never done it. Now, I will say in very small counties, it's not uncommon for judges to oversee multiple types of cases. So imagine out of West Texas, a very sparse county, the judges there will oversee family, and then they'll do, but they have experience in all of those.
Right.
They are qualified for all of those things. In larger counties, that's kind of what we're used to in Tarrant counties. Is judges are they're more specified for. But anyway, this guy's listed on. If you look at the list of retired judges, Judge Peoples is not. It's not our list. It's a different administrative region.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, but he's not listed as a criminal court judge ever, so it's very clear he's not qualified for that. And
I did see something kind of switching gears that I found kind of interesting. They had I'm not sure if I have the right area. But they talked about, to be a judge, the qualifications to be a judge. I was kind of looking around. I was thinking like maybe, being one of these guys might be a requirement there, but
Yeah.
wrong. But they actually said you don't have to be an attorney in order to be a judge. You could actually just know the law or be familiar with it. So if you could get elected, you could anyone, I say anyone, could become a judge. I mean, wouldn't that be
I need
interesting?
at one point I had that all memorized. I know the district level judges are held to a higher standard. They have to have an active law license. The county judge, I think they had to have had passed the bar within like a certain amount of time. They don't have to be active. They don't have to be currents, but it's a lower standard. Justice of the peace they do not have to have a law degree at all, of course. So.
Okay, when you say pass the bar, okay, so Victoria Nyave and Harold Dutton Jr. No, they didn't pass the bar. They just left in DWI. Oh, sorry. I like to have fun with that stuff.
You might be right about the county judge. I have to go back and read. It's a more lax standard than the district judges for sure.
There we go. Minimum qualifications must have. Let me pop this up here. Must have a pulse, I think, is one of them. We're going to pop that up here and open this up a little bit bigger.
There we go. Yeah, it's important to know this stuff.
Let's see, or lawyer and judge of court record together for at least a year. Okay, well, that's a Supreme Court level. Well, let's get down to the bottom feeders here. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, shall be well informed in the law and state laws, constitutional court, statutory, and probate. Oh, that's a whole other that scares me. And they keep calling them different. So for this right here, you got your appellate court. Where would family law fall? Is it district court? Sure ain't constitutional.
You know what's interesting? They call them district judges. Like Newell is a district judge.
Right.
I don't think they have a corollary. Like in the criminal courts, you have a district level judge, which is kind of more of a statewide system, and a county judge, because I know they're paid, through different systems. And in family courts, we don't have that. You just see a district judge, and they appoint an associate judge.
Right.
So maybe they're on the district level. I would guess.
Okay, so it looks like they had to have was in the district for 2 years and a practicing lawyer or judge. Okay, so they would have to pass the bar and get elected. That would be the two things there. In my crazier days, I thought about becoming, a lawyer and then trying to become a judge, and it looks like I may have a shot at it.
Yeah, and under the statutory courts on the far right, that's our county judges. So they do have to have. What does it say on the far? Okay, there it is. I'm sorry, maybe it's that one. Middle
25 or older. Yep, got that covered. Resident county for at least 2 years. Licensed attorney who has practiced law or served as a judge for 4 years.
So at some point they had to have been an attorney. Yeah, but.
Okay.
It is interesting though, because I thought about that as well. I mean, even that's not a super high standard. You're an attorney, so you see judges work. That does not mean you understand the law like they do.
Right.
You get elected, and you automatically you're the judge. There's no law school for judges. But judges do have to. I mean, they have to know the stuff like the back of their hand, right? They can't be wishy-washy on the laws. I mean, it would just look bad if the judge they didn't know what was going on.
Like to forget to read the first sentence of a very important document.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of leaf through it when they did it.
Oh yeah.
So that's crazy. Let's see if we got any chats in here. Somebody's asking questions, and again, for everyone out there, ask any questions. You can ask Eddie Spaghetti here anything you'd like. Questions on this. I don't know if you're at liberty to talk about anything else going on. But see what kind of questions come in here. I don't know, but it's been very interesting. I find this type of stuff interesting because, a lot of people, again, have that idea that, the government's there to help them, and, the judiciary, the legislature, they're all, honorable people. And then when you start doing a little investigative work, you start finding out that's not really the case. and you get a different opinion, then they try to shut you up, and then you then sometimes do a lifelong pursuit of trying to correct the wrongs of the world, and then you meet interesting weird people and appear on people's shows at 7 o'clock at night, other like-minded individuals, and try to figure stuff out. So let's see here. I was like Joe was just asking one of the other members what's going on. And I'm being asked to add the Law and Order sound effect. I will have to download that one and save that for a future episode. One of the other guys that does stuff, he's the blankety blank child support guy. I believe he actually uses that. And I don't know. I like to have everyone have their own shtick, their own thing for sound effects or wacky things. So anyway, yeah, one of the, let's see here. Yeah, put that comment up there. Just the Law and Order sound effect. I try to again make it more edutainment and have a little bit of fun with it, so it kind of keeps everybody there. But yeah, no, I mean it's interesting to like dig into this stuff, and I mean I appreciate you doing all the things that you've done. And the things that you continue to do, and then all that research, because one, then I don't have to do it, and two, I mean, you find out some really interesting information. Actually, it looks like Father X had a question here. Let's throw that up on the board. See, judges need to know the written law plus case law plus how to understand the facts of a case and apply the law to those facts. Family court judges definitely fall short in those 4 categories.
So, if you want to, I mean, on a related topic, I just got off the phone with a lady named Jennifer Lundy.
Oh, yeah.
And
yep.
You know her?
Yeah, I'm building her website.
Funny. She mentioned that someone's building her website. Yeah, she mentioned that today. Good.
Yep.
Let's talk about this, because she's starting this group, and one of the things that one of her goals is for all judges, when they make a ruling, to cite I'm trying to remember the language she used, but to cite the law and the violation to basically justify their ruling. I have to look up. She used more legal terms for it, but rather than just making a ruling, like say why did you make? And it's not that the judges have to. It's not like a emotional why or what was my. But like, what was the law that they violated, and what was the action that violated the law? They don't have to do that right now, and it leaves a lot of vagary whenever someone walks out and something happened to them. They're like, "Wait, that doesn't make sense." Like, what law did I violate?
Yeah, you get that kind of everywhere else. Like if you get a speeding ticket and you go and you decide to go in there and fight it or talk to it, they're like, here's the law. The speed limit is 55, and you can't drive 55. You need to go slower. So I was quoting Van Halen.
Statute. All that stuff.
I mean, you have, and it makes sense, because if you get a ruling that you don't like, and it's explained to you in the law how what the decision they made, why they made it, here's the information, then you really don't have an argument.
I was going to say that could cut down on appeals, right? I mean, that could.
Yeah.
I should say, unwarranted appeals or baseless appeals, unjustified appeals, rather. But yeah, here's the law. But yeah, especially, and again, that question made me think about it, like gentleman's question or statement, because it happens the most often in family court law that you never get any kind of understanding of like what happened and why. All you know is the ruling.
It's contrary to what the law says a lot of times. When a man and woman walk in, the law says clearly that they're not supposed to be based on their gender, or sex, or they're not supposed to be. None of the basis is on that. Their family situation, whatever that is, and it's the best interest of the child. There was actually it's weird that it's under the CPS section of it, but they list out kind of the Holly factors, and then they provide some additional information. But the law is pretty straightforward. But then what ends up happening is like completely opposite to that. It just makes sense.
That's not the way it's not the way it's supposed to work. Clearly, I was talking to I had lunch with Brooks McKenzie today,
Yeah, good old
and
Brooks.
and Arnold. And Brooks told me this kind of goes back to the brighter possibility. So Brooks, folks who don't know, he's a clinician. He has a PhD in child development, child psychology. That's what that area. He's a child.
Yeah, kids.
He knows kids. Actually, it was really. He might be embarrassed I mentioned this, but I thought it was really kind of touching. Actually, we were in Old South and. He started doing peekaboo. He caught the attention of a little girl across the table, little girl, like 2, and she just gravitated toward him, and he was doing. It's just like this guy is so good with kids, that's so natural. That's his talent. But he was saying what he's been doing lately. He's been looking at the psyche evals, and it's hard to get the original. So if you want to go a psyche eval, you can ask for it. They'll say no, but then you eventually can get it under HIPAA law, right? So
really?
6 months later, you can get I guess I didn't know that until now. That's what he said. Which is So anyway,
can you
psyche
get
eval?
You got the psyche eval, and then what's the other one where they do the thing with the kids? Oh, geez. All right, I'm sorry. I'll try to think of it. But psyche evals, I have one every week. I clear them.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. But he's saying what he's finding is whenever people come to him, they say, "Hey, I finally got my psyche eval. Can you look at this?" The judge said I wasn't qualified to be a parent. Not the judge, the counselor or the psych evaluator. Often it does not match the data, and so they're taking this data and they're making summaries that are often completely baseless, which again I think just kind of further undermines the credibility of this whole system, because we don't know whenever someone says they're interpreting the psyche eval, whether they're being honest or not, because they're not providing the original data. Right. We're just trusting them to say, mom's, a danger, dad's a danger, so.
Right. And based on, what evidence and, what factors that do that, because, and that's where it gets into all these other weird areas, because, one parent may say, I want my kid to stay up till 10 o'clock. And another parent may say, oh no, for proper development at 6. And heck, one of them may consider that to be abuse of some kind. Who knows? But, having these psych evals, having the power that they have, and from the training I've seen, there's not a whole lot it's not a deep dive training from what I've seen. And I may be wrong. I don't know if Brooks or you had meant or have dug into that.
Yeah, one thing that was interesting because it's like $2,000 they get for performing the service, and it doesn't take a whole lot of work to put this together. And I remember undergoing a psyche eval. I did most of the work. They literally sent me paperwork.
Right.
I filled it out, and so they just compute all that information, enter it in. The software comes up with the numbers. And then they get $2,000, and he also Brooks said the way that they're used, the stuff that Brighter Possibilities is using, it's not credible. Like there's nothing about that test. There are tests, he said, very
like
stringent tests. Test. Yeah.
What kind of avocado?
Oh yeah. I know those are popular for a while. Anyway. It's just why is this happening?
Well, I think I know the answer why it's happening.
Why are companies making several $1 million a year off these things?
It is odd that the psych evals, and I almost had it. It's the one where they take your kids and they kind of do they sit with them and ask them questions, like a parenting. It's like, again, when you're going through a divorce, you can have a study done where the parent or where the kids sit down with somebody and they do whatever, and then they come back with, was a kid messed up or not, or are you the reason he's messed up? I'm trying to remember what it's had an official term, and I can't remember for the life of me what it is. But they're a waste of money. And I'm speaking with a little bit of tongue in cheek and whatever, because during my divorce I was like, let's get one, because I've always been a very involved father, and my ex-wife was not an involved parent. And when we got to the divorce, obviously we know what happens in Tarrant County. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna spend the money, get this done. And it came back that I was coaching the kids' answers, which I'm like, what? That it made no. I mean, sitting here hand on a Bible, there was never any coaching going on. They witnessed the stuff that they witnessed, and it is what it is. So it just seemed really weird. Actually, I think Father Rex was asking, referring to play therapy for toddlers. That was a whole other silly thing. No, it was like some, I don't know, some study that gets done. They do on it's a child study or something. And again, it's just to, I guess, evaluate, kind of their health or, where they're at. And they did play with them. I mean, my understanding, but they brought them into a room, sat them down, asked them a bunch of questions, and that was it. And the funny thing is, I've actually to this day, I've never asked them what happened because I have a very process-oriented brain. I'm like, all right, we're going to let this thing go where it goes, and you do your thing. But it was like, I think $2,000 or something like that. And there was two different types. There was like the accelerated version, and then the full deep down whatever that's 20 pages. And I could not get a copy of it, which is another thing I found odd. I'm like, I paid for it. I should be able to get it. That's a whole other thing. I obviously let that go because it's 10 years later and it's all over with. In ways it'd be interesting to see what was in there, but I wasn't able to see it or challenge it. The attorneys were allowed to see it, but I wasn't. It was just, that was a whole other weird thing, how these attorneys acted. Like when they had those depositions or whatever, they wouldn't let me see the answers to the questions that I had to provide the questions for my ex-wife to answer, but I couldn't see the answers to them. I mean, just weird stuff, but we're going way off track here. Sorry, way off track. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions or see if there's any other questions out here. And if you see anything or if there's anything you want to talk about on or off topic, it's kind of a open mic. I mean, Joe's saying here that the judiciary is compromised. Yeah, that's pretty clear. I mean, actually, I've produced videos of the judicial reviews that occur, I think, every year or two, and the stuff that they're talking about. The stuff they talk about is they know what's going on, but they just don't do anything about it. And I mean, the judicial bodies know what was happening behind the scenes, especially in the family law world. They're just not willing to do anything about it, which I don't know how to fix that. I don't know if you have any ideas that we're allowed to say on air.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can kind of keep talking about the ideas that Jennifer has, because this is the first time. This is the first organization in the state of Texas that's doing this, and it's. I was joking with her, and I was like, "Don't take this personally," but this is, and it wasn't directed towards her. I was like, "This is so wrong what you do." But some of the stuff that she's advocating for, because I've talked to her, interviewed her today, and we'll write an article on her, is that complaints should be published. Any complaint that the Commission on Judicial Conduct receives should just be made public. Any complaint.
Right.
She mentioned that 4% of complaints are substantiated. The commission has, just several or 12 investigators, staffers, I should say, and New York City, has closer to 50, and we have similar numbers of judges. New York City, I shouldn't say New York City, the state of New York has several times the staffing size of what their equivalent is for the Commission on Judicial Conduct. If a judge is found to be guilty or found to be, guilty, I guess, of an ethics violation or a lawful violation, they can be sued. So she was saying that should open up a judge, once the commission finds that they're at fault or whatever, they should be allowed to be sued. That would be a big deal.
Well, our law says
transparency is a big one.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'll just say transparency is a big thing of what she's advocating for.
Yeah, I thought that our either it's a law already or it's one that there's a bill for that we're trying to or they're trying to get judicial immunity, blanket judicial immunity. Unless I, in all the different things I'm doing, I confused those things. But I thought there was a bill out there.
Could be.
Let's
Could
see.
be that's further enshrining their immunity.
I thought there was a bill out there. Immunizations. This is for everyone out there. This is just kind of if you want to find out what bills are going through, just go out the Legiscan, pop in a keyword, and do a search and find it. I'm not. Let's see. Okay, so well, there's immunity for peace officers. There's that bill.
We thought there might be one for judges.
Yeah, I could have swore there's already one, or there is one planned. But again, I've been doing way too much reading aside from everything else, and it all just and I've been trying to expand into other states. I actually did a show last evening on Indiana on their child support law. And the reason it caught my eye was that they already have the part where the father pays at least half of all the fees, the crib, the all that stuff, the bills that the 5 bills that we're trying to put through right now. They already have that, and they're actually trying to expand it. And so that kind of caught my eye. So I did a little bit of research and had a show last night on Indiana specifically, hoping that we could maybe learn something from them, get some additional information. But and again, as my little brain tries to expand beyond Texas and look at other states, other countries, and get information from them, it all just kind of garbles together. So I'm more than likely wrong, but I could have swore that there's the immunity from civil Department of Family and Protective Services. Wow, I'll have to look at that one. Anyway, so there's I could have swore there was one for judicial. Yeah, okay, I'll stop, or I'll just keep on going. And 3 hours later, I'll have lost everybody. But yeah, I mean, really, I mean, there should be. I guess but if they are convicted of wrongdoing, then yeah, they shouldn't have immunity because that just gives them a reason to break the law. They don't fear any consequences. But the other problem we have though is that when these audits or when someone does file a complaint, who reviews them? Other judges and attorneys, the good old boys club. So you're not going to get. They need to have like Jed or Bob on the committee versus their buddies.
Yeah, she mentioned, the Commission on Judicial Conduct, they have these staffers, and once they decide which, complaints that seem to be the most valid, they bring it to a group, I think she called them officers, and they're the ones that decide whether to substantiate the allegations or not, and those are all judges. So yeah, one of her things is to get the judges out of that, get them out of that role entirely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just you shouldn't. And again, the movie Divorce Court has a great animation that talks about actually the entire process of what a judge can do. A judge can be a judge one day, an attorney the next for the same law firm that they were seeing cases on, and vice versa. And then they did a great animation on how if you try to file a judicial complaint against a judge, well, it goes in front of their buddies, and they're not gonna. I mean, it's funny because they've talked about this actually at the Texas in Austin, where they've bragged that they've had maybe like one in the last whatever X number of years. Well, of course they've only had a small number or none, because if they're just stopping them immediately because they're not going to try to go after their buddies, then what do you expect is going to happen? And it's like they keep making these rules and laws that protect them and insulate them further and further from any type of scrutiny. And that gets into my other thing, and it's what your company does, which is exposing this stuff and getting it out there, and hopes that the people of Texas kind of wake up to it and start doing something, whatever that is. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah,
now.
no. Since you asked me earlier. What can we? I think we're all frustrated because from different reasons. I'll be honest. Even I'm frustrated as a news reporter because there aren't other people reporting on this.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Why is it just me? B, sometimes I feel like it goes nowhere. It does get read. I know, the online clicks, we know people read it, which is good. People get up, read it. They're being informed, they'll make comments. They're learning about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. But, I'll give you an example. Like there was last year there was a judge. I mentioned Daryl Coffey earlier. So all of his orders of assignments were listed as senior judge, and he was not a senior judge. And what's interesting about that is David Evans's public list, said he was not a senior judge. So David Evans knew that he couldn't be honest publicly because maybe the Supreme Court would see that and be like, whoa, that guy's not a senior judge or whatever. So he lied publicly on that disclosed list, but privately he assigned him as a senior judge. And there's a ruling on Adder v. State. It's a criminal court of appeal ruling, 1992 in Texas, that said any judge who's not statutorily qualified at the time of their assignments, that assignment is null and void. So all 100 of those criminal cases should be retried. I don't know what the exact policy is, but they at the very least need to be retried. And it is upsetting to me as a citizen of this country that there are people who were never given their due process by a fake judge. And now, some of these people are in prison, and whether they're guilty or not, we all deserve a fair trial. That was not a fair trial. But David Evans knows that. A lot of people by this point in power know what happened, that this guy was using a false title, making money off the system, and sent a lot of people to prison. And again, I'm not guessing. I don't need to, whether they're guilty or not, but it was done in a way that didn't give people due process.
Right.
And so again, there could be someone who's sitting in prison right now who has no idea that his whole trial was a sham. And I believe that it's the judiciary's job to fix this problem they made, right? Like it is absurd that they created this problem knowingly. They were caught, and they're refusing to even acknowledge that it happened. I want to say David Evans. This is our administrative judge. How corrupt, how morally bankrupt. Let's just forget the laws and the statutes. Let's just talk human being. What a morally bankrupt person. He has never answered my media questions. He's never addressed it. He's just ignoring it away. And there are 100 defendants out there who he's not going to tell them that they had a fake judge. So, I'm frustrated. we're all just trying to figure out how do we make these people follow the rules, like we do in our lives, right? We all follow certain rules.
And the easy thing, with DWIs or something, apparently that's a requirement to become the head of the JJFI. But if you or I were to get busted drinking and driving, we'd have our license taken away. We would go to jail. All those bad things that probably should. Well, the law. That's what the law says. That's what should happen. But we have a number of instances where an attorney or a judge does something like that, and then magically it just goes away. They get like a little $500 fine. You have to do some public service, whatever. It's just it's the rules for thee, or for what is it? The rules for thee, but not for me. And it sets up a horrible precedent that that they think that they're better than us. And we're not equal. And I'll give you another
rant. Judges, let's say that you're found guilty of something and you want to appeal it. If you miss the deadline for that by one day, If you do not fill out the form perfectly,
Correctly.
if you do not file it with the right person, there is no mercy. There is absolutely no second chance for errors for people like us when we're interacting with judges. But when it comes time for them to send in paperwork after they retire, all these judges are botching their paperwork. They're lazy. They're incompetent. And they get away with that. Like, they just sweep it under the rug. Even the Supreme Court justice has assigned judges as senior judges while they're still active, giving them 2 judicial positions at once. They're just, incredibly lazy with their own paperwork, and they have absolutely they show no grace for anyone else who files something imperfitly. It's absurd.
Right. Yeah, you should use a black pen, not a blue pen or something, or
yeah,
the right font or something like that. It is crazy. I always try to get to the end game is what will it take though to change that around? One of the odd things is, you'd mentioned that you had reached out to get information and interview and again, get information from these people, and they just simply ignore you. Is that, are they, as a member of the press, are you allowed to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, they're allowed to. My response to that, if I were talking to David Evans, is you're not rebuking me. You're rebuking the people who elected you, who deserve answers to these questions, right? The defendants who you deprived of due process deserve answers. So, like, it's not. I take it personally, but it's not because they don't answer to me. I believe that they deserve, our readers deserve answers.
Right.
And so that's the offense that they're really committing, is they're saying, screw you, people of Tarrant County. I know you caught me committing criminal acts, but I'm just gonna not respond. That's really what's happening. So.
And what do you think is going to take, though, to make that change? I think I know, but I, of course, love hearing what other people think if they want to, will give their thoughts on, what it's going to take to make these things change.
I'm going to give a little different answer, because I think kind of the knee-jerk answer I would give is, reform the laws and, have more accountability. But I think people educating themselves on how judges work, understanding how retired judges get assigned, understanding the history behind that, the case law, the Supreme Court rulings. Why do judges have to be constitutionally qualified? Preto v. Bell bonds. All these important historic rulings that they've said it, they've clarified it very clearly, right. Why these things should not happen. And just understanding language and a lot of what's hard about even learning about the retired judges is the statutes are intentionally written in a very convoluted way, that it's made to be indecipherable for you and I. But it can be deciphered. It just takes a lot of reading and rereading. Another interesting thing, you talk about the frustration of these judges not answering any questions. There's no resource to learn the stuff that I've learned. There's nowhere I can go. There's no authority where I can go and say, hey, so what happens when a judge who is under a false title presides over a trial? No one within the legal system is going to give a definitive answer by design. They're not there to educate us, because the less we know, the more powerful they are. So the more we know, the more that power differential shrinks, and they can no longer hide behind obscure legal jargon.
Right.
So
What do you think it's going to take though for people? Because again, that gets into my thing that I rant on all the time is that getting people involved and saying, okay, instead of playing video games or watching TikTok or TokTik or InstaSnap or whatever they're into, I'm going to buy a big old thick law book and crack it open and read it and learn how to do this stuff.
I mean, isn't this interesting though? Like, I mean,
I find it interesting.
We do this. This is what we do, in our free time. I think it's incredibly interesting, and you get really good at this. You can topple a judge. And I'll give you an example. Daryl Coffey's not assigned anymore. After we published all those articles, you will not see Daryl Coffey assigned to anything anymore. And so I take that as a small victory. And these judges, they're not invincible. And I think public awareness does help. I mean, what if we really knew? I wish more people knew about the family court judges. Because they would just, if they really knew what they were stepping into, they would refuse to allow these judges to have any influence on their families. If they really understood the stories that you and I know through our friends, they wouldn't trust the system at all. But I can only speak for myself. I think it's interesting. It's like I love solving puzzles, and I don't mean literally. I mean like metaphorical puzzles, and judges are a huge black box, and to try to crack the code and catch them at what they're doing, it beats any crossword puzzle that I could ever engage in. I think intellectually, it's a great brain teaser. Trying to catch these people,
right?
Well, but that's just.
Well, I mean, you've had your personal experience with family court, and that probably
and criminal courts, yeah.
Criminal courts. So you've had that, and you probably went in there with one idea of how things worked, and then you of course came out of it with another idea of how things worked, and then you worked through the process and learned all that. And I keep trying to figure out, how do we get people to quickly get from because I get it. When you first walk in, you think it's Matlock or things are going to be right, but how do we quickly get them there, get them educated, and then turn them into advocates to then make change? That's my black box. I've been working on that for close to a decade, trying to get people. One of my things is I make educational videos and content. I try to have a little bit of fun here, obviously, but it's data. Like I just actually updated the Texas custodial piece for Title 4D on the website, and it provides some hard data that shows the numbers. But people respond to that video at the very beginning. That video got something like I think 2 million hits.
Oh, cool! I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it done, and it was something I was in a meeting, and I'm like, oh, that was kind of fun. And I took the original video, which was I think 10 or so minutes long, cut it up, and then had fun with it, and then shot it out, not expecting it to do what it did. But that got 2 million hits, whereas an informative video gets none. And the lesson I keep being told or taught is that people don't want to learn; they just want to be entertained. And that's always been my mental issue, because I want to learn, and I like to be entertained, but I want to learn while it's happening. Kind of like, I guess I was a PBS generation kid. Sesame Street and all that stuff.
Good old PBS, yeah. One corollary I see, and I'm finding this is controversial when I talk to people, but I'm pretty entertained at night watching these First Amendment auditors. Usually, I'll go to sleep on the Facebook or YouTube, I guess, just flipping through. There's one called Audit the Audit. Where, have you seen that one?
I believe I have. I mean, I know like Manuel Mata. That's the local personality.
He was on a couple. He's been featured on a couple of those. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's one that it's called Audit the Audit, and what that means is they review citizen auditors' interactions with law enforcement.
Oh yeah.
And they give them a grade. And it's very educational, but it's incredibly entertaining too. And I learn a lot because they'll specifically show the case law. They do a good job of I think being fair in that they acknowledge when cops do a good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never really quite know who's going to come out getting an A or an F. But those get several million views. So I would just say people are engaged on the law enforcement side of it. I guess people just find it entertaining. People walking up to cops, and it's entertaining. But they don't seem so much to get into the judiciary. And I think because maybe the judges it's a much less sexy. They're old dudes, black robes.
You're saying Judge Judy's not sexy?
I bet she was when she was in her 20s. I'm gonna.
Okay, all right. I like the old.
I could see it. I could see it.
Judge Vonda. She's like a family court kind of a TV judge. Their name's Judge Vonda. I think she does like mock family court trials, and she deals with child support and custody and all that stuff. But she has millions of followers and viewers and everything. But
really?
I want to say it's mock videos. I might do that or pull it up here. It's like Judge Vonda. I think.
But I feel like we're at a time when people are learning about justice, watching justice kind of stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen any of her stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, she does, and she's actually in Texas.
Oh, cool! Wow.
But the stuff that she does, it seems like it's scripted. I don't know. There's no another way I can explain some of the
Probably.
stuff.
I don't think it's like Judge Judy. They signed the waiver. It's not really a trial.
But
it's just a show. Yeah.
A lot of stuff there.
But,
yeah, I always try to figure out how to get people edutained. So they walk away knowing something, because it still blows my mind that when I talk to people today that they don't know there's 5 bills going through right now for retroactive child support. They're like, really? What? Oh my gosh, I did not know that. And I'm like, how could you not know that? That get involved. I know some of it's boring, but this is stuff to get involved with in our judiciary. Finding out how this works, and then of course in our elections. The people that are going out for election, let's dig under what they're saying on their billboard and find out, what is your background? How many judges or how many trials have you presided over? How did you, vote, or how did you decide? Get that information versus a picture and I'm a nice guy and a color/letter beside your name. How do you get more people that are going to go beyond that and kind of dig in or consume information that will educate them? Anyway,
I know. And if we could talk about politics briefly, one of the reasons I was so alarmed to hear Phil Sorrells' plan for decreasing the backlog was he was going to hire a bunch of retired judges. And after our show today, these are, of all the judges, these are the worst. Like, these are. You're going to bring in a bunch of these stormtroopers to just. I mean, how many criminal appeals can you have when you have, are you asking for when you have all these unqualified judges coming in? I mean, it was just absurd. But yeah, sorry.
We voted him in, despite my best efforts. I think some know the controversy between me and Philly. I wanted to, find out more about the candidate. I think he did half of a interview with Larry, and then he did I think the primaries did some whatever, and then pretty much everyone kind of did not want to do any debates or anything afterwards, and I just found that appalling that you're interviewing. I kept saying, it's like, I go to you to get a job as a reporter, let's say, and you're like, okay, well, why don't you tell me your qualifications? Nah, I'm not gonna. Just hire me. It made no sense to me. Every question I would send out, it's just
you're right. I mean, I think Tim O'Hare and Phil Sorrells, those were the big ones, right? That just refused to do any kind of debates.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just
So-
very interesting. I know it probably gets us into a whole other,
I think,
area.
well, I mean, like that whole comment about that when people snub me, they're really snubbing our readers. When they
Right.
snub the debate, people asking for a debate, they're really snubbing the voters. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're really just saying we don't think our voters deserve to hear us
That
have
was
a
the way I
debate.
approached it.
Yeah.
That was exactly how I approached it. I said, wait, I can vote for, my vote counts, and you're in my area. I want to see who the best candidate is. Show me. I didn't think it was that much, it was that difficult, but I guess apparently it was, that, he did not want to communicate, talk, debate, have discussions. I mean, I know, Tiffany, just kind of going the whole other direction for the folks, out there that may not be from the area. We had a DA, which is a very important job, for your local election. And, I was wanting to get both people in there and have them talk. And I didn't need to be in there or run it or anything. Have someone do it and have them, talk about their ideas and get into the details, and then tell me who the best person to vote for. And then after that, and then I started doing research into both of them. And I wanted to, he would say one thing, and I'm like, well, I've done all the research here, and that's not entirely true. But getting that traction anyway, that's whole other that ship has sailed. It's over with. Too late. He's in. But again, for next election, I would like to spend the next 2 years, preparing and getting information out there. I'm hoping Tiffany or someone else, runs. I don't know where she's at, or whoever may come up as a challenger. But I don't know. I think these people that represent us owe us. And I don't say it in a negative sense, as like you owe me, but if you're going for the job,
yeah. Imagine that, like, never interviewing for a job and just thinking you're gonna just coast in. I don't want to interview. I'm just gonna hire me.
Yeah, I mean, I got a good smile. I got a good business card. I send out 1 million flyers to you the week before election. Somehow I got all this money, even though I'm going for a job that pays like 20,000 or something a year. I don't know what that number is. Anyway, we're going way.
Yeah.
It was so disheartening, that whole thing. Anyway, I'll stop there.
I agree.
Let's see. Well, Joe had a great idea. I don't know. Well, I'll say he had an idea. I won't say it's great. It's me in trouble here. Throw Joe 2 in jail, and they'll start following the law.
Should we make them wear their black robes while incarcerated?
Ooh, how about the wig? That may too much.
Go
Did I not
the
go on there?
1700s.
I'll be Well, wear a nice long hair, and then you walk in and you hear.
All right.
Sorry, I am gonna get in so much trouble. Anyway, again, Mr. Spaghetti, it was a wonderful having you on here again. A lot of good conversation, a lot of good edutainment. Anything that you'd like to tell our viewers? Actually, you were on the Larry Show earlier today. Let's see if I can pull that up there. I can actually have folks go over there and get a chance to watch that. But anything you'd like to tell the viewers?
The Larry Show was all about family courts. Talked about Brooks McKenzie's upcoming child support hearing, which we're all following very closely in April. And I talked about a gentleman named Brennan Jones who was, he says, falsely arrested by Phil Sorrells. And that's tied to a family court case as well. And I talked about brighter possibilities on the show, and then I mentioned just a little bit about what's going on with myself and my son right now. So
it was a good show. I mean,
okay, thank you.
Went well. Yeah, no, it was a good show. Basically, it looks like Larry's got some new equipment. I don't know if you want to share.
He does. I noticed when I came in, he had some new screens, and he's invested in a lot, and he committed to continuing to look at family court stuff. Even his show this evening, I think it was right before we started. He taught. He was his evening show. He was just talking about family courts again, which is nice.
Oh yeah.
So trying to rile the troops up again.
Need to get them riled up.
I can't give any details, but Brooks McKenzie has an epic plan in store for the next 6 weeks. I know, epic though. Just
it is going to be epic. It's going to be excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, this guy has some balls.
Yeah, his case is like April 14th. I need to get that. I did put it out here one time. I need to keep that out there as it gets closer, so more people, because it's in person, unfortunately. And I again, Tarrant County historically does not do YouTube things to let court watchers watch. So that's a whole other. So you'll have to go there and plan to take time off from work and everything else to go in. But yeah, it's April, I think 14th. I'll have to get the specifics on that. So if people are able to attend, please do. Again, it shows support and lets everybody know that we're watching. So all right. Anything else, Ed?
I think that's it. I'm going to work on an article about Jennifer Lundy. We're going to talk about this new nonprofit. So that's, we got every little bit of good news. We need to, be excited about it. This could be the beginning of something, just being the beginning of something is a big deal. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And just
if you care about this,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, if I know Jennifer would say if anyone cares about this, they need donations.
Oh yeah. And actually they have their 501c3. And if you're able to, if you click that link, that'll show up on here on the QR code or in the comments, you can go right to the website. Let me pop that up here so you can see that. And close this down. I got all these.
Good night, Father X.
Oh, Father X is signing off for the evening. Let's see if we can turn that off. But you can actually go to the donate button here. And as a point of clarification, the website, this website, and the URL is not going to change. But this site was built before I got involved. I did clean it up, and I'm going to be making some updates and changes to that as far as look and all that, kind of snazz it up a little bit. As I get time. But yeah, the donate thing is here. I know that Facebook and Twitter work. The donate, all the buttons work now. If you were out there before, the email piece works. Are
you guys going to be on Instagram? I would encourage her to add an Instagram page. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check. I did. Yeah, I got an email or two from her earlier this week. It's just with everything going on, I won't.
I know.
Just until the weekend, but may have InstaSnap on there. It's possible. Sorry, I use old man language. It's TalkTick, InstaSnap, and what's the other one I always use? Something I can't remember. Yeah,
right.
I have to keep the kids entertained, and whenever I say that, they roll their eyes and call me a boomer, and then we laugh and move on. But then they ask me questions on how to code and do stuff, and I go sure and do it. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure she'll be on all the social media platforms. And we'll get kind of everything dressed up. And I do have information that we will be timing it out, but there are a lot of information to be forthcoming. There is a little bit out there right now, so if you go to the site and check it out, you'll get an idea. It kind of covers it. Texans for Judicial Accountability. That's the big umbrella picture, but there's a lot of good work planned for that. And yeah, Jennifer is leading the charge in that. She needs folks to help out. So if you go to the support needed area, you can contact her. Actually, this goes to her email now. And it gives just some things if you're able to donate time or resources.
We should get Larry to organize a fundraiser for this. Larry's already interested in helping family court stuff.
Oh, okay.
He's got a huge reach, and it does that bike thing every year. But this maybe maybe early this summer we could do a fundraiser event for this and give Jennifer a big fat check.
Well, I would be willing to do like a car wash. I could get my shirt and do like.
You're gonna get your bikini on.
I'll do the little Daisy Duke thing in my shirt, and
Oh,
I will
God.
dance around and clean people's cars. So if
Okay.
you want that, well, yeah, pitch that to Larry, see what his thoughts are.
Okay.
Everybody's going to be losing their dinner. All right, let's see. I think I saw one more. Oh yeah, getting the good night. Everyone's like, all right, let's wrap her up, wrap her up.
All
Right,
right. Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
get her done. All right, everybody. Again, thank you for joining. Ed, as always, it's a pleasure to have you here. Check out Fort Worth Weekly. Actually, I just have the link to that article, but obviously you can click on Fort Worth Weekly and look at all the rest of the cool stuff he has on there. Follow him. I'm sure you're on all the social media thingies and all that. And there's, of course, a lot of good, exciting stuff coming from you probably on a daily basis. But yeah, outside of that, again, Ed and Pissed Off Parent, wishing you a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see y'all later.
Thank
Till
you.
the next one.